2 of the live action movies.
Me too.
And obviously with the live action movies, your first question is, how faithful is this to the original? Which made me want to go back and watch the original, which is why I watched a lot of these shows. And we had the big long opening section about the shows. I forgot to mention the Flintstones because I couldn't find the Flintstones. I can only find it on Apple TV Jordan. We'll have a rant about Apple TV if we hit 150. But that's the only place that had it.
Oh, real quick, going back to The Man Called Flintstones, an interesting thing about that, for a movie that is a musical, they never have the Flintstones song in that movie.
That's pretty funny. And so the only instance of I watched the pilot of the Flintstones. They have that on YouTube, and I watched a couple little small chunks of episodes here and there. But the only real sort of exposure I got to the cartoon was there is this really long YouTube video with all of their commercials, and one of the commercials was just a commercial for Anheuser-Busch, the beer, and it's very bizarre. Fred and Barney just decide to rage quit their jobs out of nowhere, and they wind up at the bar just drinking an Anheuser-Busch. And they're like, yeah, anytime I feel remotely upset, I just sit here and I have an Anheuser-Busch. And Fred's like, what are you gonna do? To how are you gonna tell Betty that you quit your job? And he's like, I'm going to say, Betty, Fred Flintstone made me quit my job. And he's like, and then what are you gonna do? He's like, and then I'm gonna kill myself.
Boy, this bush does it.
You can't say beer better, Fred.
You know, Barney, maybe I acted a little hasty today.
Well, it's done, Fred.
We're gonna have to figure out a story to tell our wives, Barney.
Oh, I have my story all set.
Yeah? What is it?
Well, I'll walk into the house, right up to Betty, and I'll say, Betty, Fred Flintstone made me quit my job today.
And then what?
I kill myself. What else?
It's like, whoa! It's really dark. It's very dark. And then, yeah, it just sort of slowly devolves to these live-action shots of Anheuser-Busch and Fred and Barney being like, yeah, I like Anheuser-Busch. And every single time they drink it, this, like, cloud appears over the head, and it's like, yes, you're having a good time. But anyway, I wanted to watch the show because I watched the live-action movie starring and featuring John Goodman as Fred Flintstone, as Halle Berry. Rick Moranis is Barney. Rosie O'Donnell is Betty. And I'm not sure who plays Wilma. I don't recognize her in the same way I do the others.
You are about to embark on an extraordinary journey. A voyage to the very dawn of civilization. To a place called Bedrock.
Hey, the K vacuum forecast for tonight calls for light seismic activity and a 20% chance of meteor showers.
Where human society as we know it was born. It was home to modern Stone Age man. Home to the Flintstones.
Wilma, I'm home!
This summer,
Yabba Dabba Doo!
from Universal Pictures and Amblin Entertainment.
By name. But she is really, really good as Wilma. Here's the thing about this movie, okay? It is, if your desire is for it to look exactly like the cartoon, boy howdy, does it look exactly like the cartoon. It is remarkable. Like, the set design is incredible. The performances are like, they all like nail it spot on. Fred and Barney's boss shows up at one point. It looks just like him. Like, John Goodman as Fred's incredible. Rick Moranis as Barney is phenomenal. Again, the set design, the puppets. Dino is like part puppet, part CGI. There's a lot of puppets with the dinosaurs that look great. Again, the sets look great. It is a very faithful looking movie with a very boring story. Like, that movie is great until Halle Berry shows up and it becomes about corporate embezzlement and them setting up Fred. I mean, it to a degree is a believable storyline. It's just the way it's presented. I just remember as a kid not liking this movie because Fred and Barney were mean to each other the whole time. Like, that's all I remember about it.
They at a certain point, don't they, like, get into this big fight?
Yeah.
Which I will say, Fred having issues with Barney is not unrealistic, because, like, in the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, there's a part where Fred literally tosses Barney out one of the Jetsons, like, sky windows.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like the idea in the original show is that Barney's his annoying neighbor, his Flanders, as it were. That's what he is. Like, the movies present them as being like best friends since childhood, but that's not their dynamic in the show. It's their dynamic for this. The plot of this is basically there's a bad guy, played by Charlotte's husband from Sex and the City, who has basically tricked and bamboozled the higher ups at the quarry that Fred and Barney work at, and has convinced them to spend a bunch of money on revolutionary mining equipment, basically. And him and Halle Berry are gonna embezzle the money and steal the money, and they frame Fred Flintstone by promoting him to executive vice president or whatever. They inevitably frame Fred Flintstone for it. So everyone, and they trick him because he doesn't read what he signs, having him sign all the pink slips, which is really funny because they show up as like stone tablets, but they're pink.
So I was just gonna say, the thing that I most remember about that first one is, like, they look right and they feel right, but it being a real estate scam, I remember that being boring as a kid.
Yeah, it's embezzlement. Yeah, an embezzlement scam. Yes.
Sorry, embezzlement.
Yeah, corporate embezzlement.
Which, I mean, I understand how you need to find something to make the movie work, but, like, couldn't there have been something more?
Well, the bones there are like a believable Flintstone story when you're watching it as an adult, where you're like, yeah, basically Barney swaps test scores with Fred, so Fred gets promoted instead of him, and Barney gets fired because he has the worst scores in the plant, and so Fred becomes a big prick with money, and him and Barney break up. Is basically the plot of it. That is a believable storyline that could happen in the show, but it's just, I don't know, something about the way it's, and like, yeah, there are some legit laugh out loud funny jokes that I appreciate as an adult, but like, yeah, in terms of being a it's just not a very interesting story. Like, it's riding on the laurels of the money it clearly spent to look like the cartoon, and like, yeah, it opens and closes with like a shot for shot, like, done in live action with the cast recreation of the theme song.
Yabba Dabba Doo! Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're a modern Stone Age family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. Let's ride with the family down the street through the courtesy of Preston Beach. And you're with the Flintstones. Have a Yabba Dabba Doo time, a Dabba Doo time. We'll have a gay old time.
So it plays like it's an extra long theme song of the show. So it opens with the theme song, and then it closes with the closing theme song, the bit where the lion locks him out, and it ends with that. So it bookends just like an episode of the show. So it feels like an episode of the show, and it's really impressive in that regard. But yeah, it's just like, this is really boring. But every version of it that they had written was also like awful sounding. Like, at one point they had a version of it they had written where it was going to be like, essentially the Great Depression would happen in Bedrock, and Barney and it's the same deal. Barney and Fred get mad at each other and break up. And that's the conflict of the movie. And I'm like, that sounds equally as awful. Like, and it's really funny because my knowledge of this movie, my memory of this movie has always been me going, I don't like this movie. and the world being like, no, but it's a really good movie. And then I was reading about it, and no, it was in fact not a well-received movie. Everybody hated it. It has like a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm like, man, my memory of the cultural reception to this is way different than I thought.
It might not have had your first one there. It might not have had a critical or like a well received audience, but financially it did well enough to make a sequel. So,
Prequel?
well, it's interesting that you say that. If you're done,
Yes, that's the Flintstones. It's again, if your desire is for it to look like the show, it absolutely looks like the show.
okay. Well, synergistically, I was going to do Scooby-Doo first, but since you've done Flintstones, I'm now going to do my Flintstones. I also, for my have scenes, did 2 live-action movies, and one of them is the second Flintstones live-action movie that they made, which is Flintstones in Viva Rock Vegas.
Universal Pictures invites you to a world before time, before civilization, before America's favorite Stone Age family was a family.
This is an exciting time for us, isn't it, Barney?
Sure, Fred. No job, no money, no women. Things are really looking up.
To the town of Bedrock, where something exciting
Are you hurt?
Oh, no, Betty, I'm fine.
was about to happen.
You want a date? Your little friend want a date too?
Barney, tonight we shower.
Viva Rock Vegas.
It is a prequel. You're right on that, but it wasn't supposed to be.
No, it wasn't. It was supposed to be a sequel. And then they couldn't get any of the
they
original cast
wanted-
back.
They greenlit 2 sequels, and it's interesting that they couldn't get any of the original cast back because that's not correct. Technically, looking at this cast list, I'll get there in a second.
Couldn't get the main
But,
cast
yeah,
back because John Goodman hated making the first one.
It's according to this, it's not that he hated making the first one. He did not want to get typecast. Was why he would not come back for this one.
Yeah, fair enough.
According to this. But they originally wanted to. They approved two sequels and wanted to have them be filmed back to back in the vein of Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3. But yeah, John Goodman did not want to come back and be Fred because he didn't want to be typecast. But so reading about this, where did it say it? I saw somewhere in there that the director, whoever wrote it, said that the third one they would have ended up in the Stone Age equivalent of the Wild West, which I think would have been funny.
It would have been funny.
But and here's an interesting little thing which I just found out. In this movie, the character who plays Wilma's father, Colonel Slaghoople, Corman, in the original animated series, he voiced the Great Gazoo, and he voiced the Dictabird in the first film.
Oh, that's funny. Oh yeah, Yeah, I didn't mention the Dictabird. Yeah, the self-aware bird puppet, which is also really impressive looking. But that second movie also does a decent job of looking like the Thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're gonna get to that in a second. But the thing that I found interesting when I was reading through the cast list, and I'm looking to find where it is because I've lost it, was there it is. You said that none of the original came back. That's not true. Rosie O'Donnell did come back as the voice of the octopus, giving Wilma and Betty massages.
Okay, all right.
So I don't know why they didn't get her to just be Betty, but
yeah, and then
she was in this. She was in this movie.
The thing that makes me go, yeah, I believe that it was a sequel, is the fact that the Great Gazoo is there. It doesn't make any sense for him to be here at this point. But he's a very obviously a late addition in late seasons of the Flintstones. He's very much a jump the shark, we're out of ideas character.
He's a dumb character.
Yeah.
Um,
He was
but,
like in like one of the last seasons, he was introduced as like a way to basically, he would show up, cause a problem, and that would be plots of the episode of the show.
But this one very much, it looks like the Flintstone, and it feels like the Flintstones. You know, it's yet again another example of it's a believable story where, Fred is trying to woo Wilma, and he gets too big for his britches, gets too much money, makes an ass of himself, and ultimately has to learn a lesson.
The cast not as good. Not as good.
There's a lot of this thing which is just not as good. Let me put it this way: there's a reason they didn't make a third one.
Yeah. I remember watching this in theaters, and like this is like one of the first times I can remember actively thinking a movie was bad.
I don't remember watching this in theaters. I remember watching this on TV, like on YTV and stuff like that with commercials.
Remember walking out of the movie theater being like,
I remember watching the first one in theaters. I don't remember watching this one in theaters.
I think you've got your memory confused. Because we watched the first one came out well before we would have been watching movies in theaters. I think it's like 94. We definitely have seen the second one came out like the 2000s.
Yeah, well, the first one it says 1994.
94, yeah, that's well before you'd be 3 years old. You would have no memory. I mean,
this one came out April 28th, 2000.
Yep.
I don't think Mom would have taken us to this one.
It was a grandma one.
Oh, that I could believe. Yeah, it had a budget of it had a budget of 83 million, which is not as much as I would have thought more. But fun game. It's under 70 million. Want to guess how much it box office it did? Under 70 million.
50 million?
Ooh, a little bit more.
60 million.
Just under.
59 million.
59.5.
Oh yeah.
So it did not do well.
No, it did not. Just the sentiment of like, we didn't have the words for these exact words at the time, but like it's the Flintstones from Wish.
Yeah.
Timu Flintstones, like it just didn't feel right. I remember it was like the first time I walked out and be like, wow, that wasn't very good.
Flintstones adjacent.
Yeah, I at least that's the first time I can actively remember having that feeling.
But the funny thing is for me is so if I put this beside, and I think it really and truly does have to do with the fact that this one doesn't have such a star-studded cast.
Yeah.
It doesn't have Rick Moranis. It doesn't have John Goodman.
Stephen Baldwin, and it's got some guys for Flintstone.
When you put, it has the guy who was from A Knight's Tale.
It was from A Knight's Tale, yeah.
When you put the guys in this one beside John Goodman, Rick Moranis, and the rest, it's just it's not gonna stand up.
It's before any of those guys did anything. Like, it's got the chick from Third Rock from the Sun as Wilma, and it's like she's just not as good as the first one. It's just not as good. The only one who I think is probably as good, in fact probably actually better than Rosie O'Donnell is Betty. She kind of nails Betty a bit better. Although Rosie O'Donnell absolutely nails the voice. The voice is incredible.
I tend to agree with you. I think Betty is better in this one. And then there's just the fact that as for why this might not have done as well is when I think the Flintstones, I don't think romantic comedy personally.
Sort of. I mean, Betty, no, not really. It's usually like Fred gets into hijinks, but there is an element of they have their episodes where he needs to make it up to Wilma. So yeah, I mean, it's a basic sitcom setup. So yeah, they probably did have romantic setups, whereas he had to make it up to the wife. Is that kind of show?
Sure, but I guess I'm more mean she's already the wife.
Yeah.
It's different. It's different than having to try and win over. Like, it's different than at the beginning of a relationship.
I'm sure it's a long and storied franchise. I'm sure there is a movie or a special or an episode where he had to woo Wilma. I'm sure it exists.
Yeah, there is. It's this.
Other than this.
But yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more to say about this. It's fine.
Hey everybody, it's Endcard Justin here. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think about the Flintstones movies? Are they a beloved childhood favorite, or are you like me and you didn't care for them as a child? Either way, let me know down in the comments below what you're thinking. But in the meantime, if you would like to see the full episode that this video is from, you can click the box on the left, and that's going to take you to the full episode, our Hanna-Barbera special, where we talked about the other live-action Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, all kinds of cartoons, Hanna-Barbera cartoons, what have you. It was a real zany time. Or, if you would like, you could click the box on the right, and that's going to take you to a random video that YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy. But, if you haven't already, if you could subscribe or leave us a like, that would also be very helpful. Either way, we'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day, everybody.